Welcome once again to In Conversation. Today our guests on the show are paddler, parliamentarian Adam van Koeverden and the great singer-songwriter Jim Cuddy. Jim's success is remarkable, both with his own band, the Jim Cuddy Band, and Blue Rodeo. Since 1986, when they released their first album, Blue Rodeo's Outskirts, he has released, if you can imagine, 64 singles. Between Blue Rodeo and the Jim Cuddy Band, Jim's been nominated for 41 Juno Awards, and he's won 14 of those. He's amazing on guitar, a magician on the piano, but where his magic really shines, his wizardry is with the written word and the way it applies to his songs, those that reach our music-loving ears and take residence. And another great Canadian, Adam van Koeverden, who won gold and bronze in the Athens Olympics in 2004. He has 2 silver medals as well in Beijing and London. He's an 8-time member of the podium club at the World Championships. And I saw him just before Athens, and I saw him just before he won his seat as Member of Parliament for Milton. It's Adam who inspired a blog and a podcast we did during the Rio Olympic Games on CBC television. It was called As Maple As, Maple Moments. That's a phrase coined by Adam van Koeverden.
There is the great Adam van Koeverden for Canada. Olympic gold medal in Athens and bronze medal.
It will be Van Koeverden for a silver medal.
Adam van Koeverden, he really does look the part, and that is not just a victory, that is a demolition.
First, I got to show you this result in Milton. Adam van Koeverden has stolen it away by a big margin from Lisa Raitt.
Blue Rodeo's frontman Jim Cuddy has made himself one of Canada's most respected artists in the industry.
We don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
We figure it really is just, that's our job. Our job is making music.
We speak a common language, the language of music, and we belong to a huge community. Being a group means getting along for a long period of time and having a lot of people support you. So what a great opportunity. Thank you.
Glorious day.
And there they are, joining me from Mulmer District at the beautiful country home known as The Farm. Jim Cuddy. Jim, you hear me okay?
I can, yeah. Nice to see you.
And nice to see you too. And it's nice to see Adam van Koeverden, your friend, the Member of Parliament for Milton. So Adam, why don't I start with you? How do you know Jim?
How do I know Jim? I don't know. I guess, well, Jim's really very, very generous with his time. And he spent many years helping to raise money for Canadian Olympic athletes. And there was a lot of great dinners and a lot of great parties. And I guess through one of those, maybe once or twice, he asked me to come up on stage and sing a verse of The Weight with him and his band. So I've known Jim for a long time. So Jim, you reciprocate on that.
Well, yeah, I met Adam through the initiative that raises money for Gold Medal Plates, then called Great Kitchen Party now. But since then, we've had lots of social occasions. I was very supportive of his campaign, his political campaign. Came up and did one event for him, and was really happy to see he won. And so I've been to a couple of Olympics, watched him perform. Awesome.
Well, look, we'll get to COVID-19. We'll get to, obviously, your role as a leader in this on the front lines in government, Adam, in a moment. But just you mentioning The Weight by the band raises 2 specters. One is, Jim, that's kind of a really big moment for you in 1989 when you're the backup band to Robbie Robertson and Garth Hudson and Rick Danko. Tell the viewer the story of the Juno Awards and you performing with the band and how it almost didn't happen.
Well, it's a strange story because it's not nearly as an exalted time as it seems, because we were very, very popular in 1988, but they moved the Junos from spring to fall or fall to spring, whichever. So there was no Junos in 88. So 89, we figured this is going to be a big moment for us. And they came to us and they said, we got such a great thing for you. It's going to be such an honor. The band is going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, and they've asked if you would play with them. We're like, wow, we were just blown away. Learn The Weight backwards and forwards, go to a rehearsal room where we're going to have the band come in. And Robbie walks in and says, what's everybody doing here? And we're like, what? He said, we just need a drummer. And so obviously they'd never heard of us. They had nothing. They'd never asked for us. It took Rick Danko. Rick Danko was an amazing character. He was a most open and gregarious and lovable character. And he said, oh, come on, we'll make this work. Both Basil and I will play bass. And anyway, he made it all cool. And And then, of course, the whole performance was fun, but it was not what it appeared to be. It was something entirely different. It was all about the absurdity of rock and roll.
It's great. So government, honestly, Adam, when your mom signed you up for paddling in 1995, funny enough, it was called Looking for a Champion, and you became one. But this decision to sign up to be an MP has us in not just the time of a lifetime, but the time of a cosmos. It's truly a remarkable situation in which you find yourself as a member of parliament. So what is it like being a part of the government right now?
Well, signing up as a 13-year-old at the Burloak Canoe Club was certainly a lot different than signing up my papers to register as a candidate in a federal election. These are unprecedented times. But I got involved to serve my community, to listen to my neighbors, to stand up for what I believe is right and just and important. You know, that's what we have to do now as a community, and that's what I need to do as a member of parliament, my neighbors in Milton, to make sure that Miltonians' voices are heard, whether that's, you know, how do I access this CERB that I've never heard of? How does my small business ensure that we remain solvent throughout this crisis? Or when can I get back to work? Or even things as granular as, you know, where can I get my kids and my dog out for a walk safely?
You were chair and vice chair of the Athletes Commission. So even though you had that, what people consider maybe a selfish pursuit of wanting to win a gold medal at the Olympic Games, you always had a larger community in mind. So politics is not really new, surprisingly. Jim, you too. You've done so much for the Juno Awards, for Music Counts. You've always had larger community in your mind. But first, your small community, you and Rena at the farm. How are you coping, and what are you thinking about during this time?
Well, it's a lot easier up here because there's nobody around. There's nobody here. We have a neighbor over there. Most of the people keep to themselves. We can go walking through the woods. So it's only when I come to the city that I'm aware of the level of anxiety. And for the first time, I feel kind of like a country bumpkin. I feel like I'm gonna make a mistake. I'm gonna stand too close to somebody. I'm gonna pick up something without gloves on, and so I come to the city, do what I have to do, and I feel like I can catch my breath when I'm driving out of the city, which is strange. I'm an urban dweller. I mean, this place was always a weekend place. It's only become a residence since this happened. But yeah, there's something to be said. I recognize Adam and yourself are very much in the heart of it and doing a lot of good. There's something to be said for pulling yourself out of it and doing what you can do, but allowing yourself to not be possessed by it every minute.
It's so surreal. Anita Anand, the Honorable Anita Anand, is our Minister for Public Services and Procurement, and she lives 5 doors that way. I saw Anita and John, her husband, walking the dog. Carrie did, actually, on Sunday. And that night, Donald Trump said no to 3M America sending N95 masks to Canada. And she had to deal with that. She had to phone 3M Canada first thing in the morning and then start working the various levels of government. And Adam, that's your dear friend. And so again, it almost is hard to imagine that working from home, the stakes being so high. Just a thought on that.
Well, Anita's doing an incredible job, and you know, we sort of decided to run together. We're both politically, we're newcomers to this game. Anita is an incredibly intelligent person who's got years and years of experience of governance, and she is the right person for the Minister of Procurement job, and she's demonstrating that right now. She's calm and collected and incredibly wise. And we talk every couple of days and just check in to see how our ridings don't necessarily touch, but we're all in Halton. So Karina Gould, Pam Demoff, myself, and Anita are sort of the Halton four, and we stay connected, and I can confirm that 3M said no to that bizarre request, and Canada continues to get what we need. The Prime Minister made an announcement yesterday and reiterated it again today that we are receiving all of the necessary personal protective equipment, masks, and everything that we need in order to fight this virus and to make sure that our healthcare professionals and frontline workers are safe and well protected and prepared to do their jobs.
Jim, you are Canada's unofficial ombudsman. How are the leaders doing, or how are the public health workers impressing you? What stood out during this?
I, first of all, have always been a JT admirer, and I think that he's doing a magnificent job by addressing the public every day. I know my sons They all watch every day, and they stay online with each other, and they criticize and they comment, and which I think is amazing. I mean, when a bunch of millennials are paying daily attention to political messaging, I think that's pretty unique. And I think that what this government has done is to reinforce this notion that communities are based on trust in each other, and you have to trust your leaders to trust your neighbors. Everything is some kind of reflection of the trust you have in the people around you. And I think that this government, and obviously behind the scenes, healthcare workers, we all know people. I mean, I've had messaging with people that are in the front line. I mean, I have been dependent on ear, nose, and throat people for my whole career. So I know what they're doing, and I know how much they're putting at risk. And I never hear that in any communication I hear from them. I never hear, oh my God, this is so scary for me. I always hear, you stay safe, you do this, call me, blah, 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 blah. I just think it's remarkable. I think the bravery that is admirable. And if there's one thing that's good about this time, it's how much we peel away the layers, the veneer that we have of our lives, and we see the true inner workings of our society, and it's good.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like this show even is an opportunity to speak to the millennials. Here's Sam Pauly. So Rena Pauly, Jim's wife. Some of the kids take Rena's name, and some of them take Jim's name. Obviously, here's Devin Cuddy, and you should hear Emma sing. Honest to God, her rendition of Randy Carlisle's story. What a family they are. But, sustainable high performance, each of you. All those who are right now on the front line and doing a great job are going to have to do it for, it looks like, an extended period of time. Jim, your long career, and then Adam, your long career. Jim, how'd you do it?
There's so many factors that go into it. I mean, first of all, it's the joy of what you're doing. I've always loved music, and even now, especially now, when I get an occasion to play music, whether it's just taping something or doing something with my boys, I feel this euphoria after it. That I recognize that it's just so much a part of my molecular structure. But to keep going, you need to have a supportive partner. You need to have kids that are understanding that you're away. You need to work things out constantly with your partners. And sometimes it goes bad and sometimes it comes back. And you need to eventually figure out all the physical protections you need to do. I mean, I've had an operation on my voice, and that was probably from wear and tear from before. And now I understand how to take care of myself. I understand the drinking, the this, the that, the late nights, all that sort of stuff has to be curtailed to do what you want to do. And I couldn't be more grateful that I'm able to continue doing this till I drop.
It's incredible. Adam?
Athletes have this peculiar sort of reality that at a certain point in your career, for some it's early and for some it's late, you're going to have to change. You're going to have to, quit and move on because you can't be an athlete forever. John Prine sadly just passed away, but he proved you could be a rock and roller until, the very last days. But that's not the reality for an athlete. You've got to find a way to pivot. You've got to be agile, and you got to find a new thing. When I was 34, I went to my last Olympics and decided that was enough for me. 4 Olympics and 4 medals sounded good and looked good on paper, so I decided to move on. And I always knew that I wouldn't be paddling a kayak until I was in my 50s or 60s, but that didn't necessarily mean that I knew exactly where I was going to go in my mid-30s when it became time to hang up my paddle.
Ron, can we ask you a question? I mean, you are one of the busiest guys I've ever met. And so how are you coping with this? Because you go from 24/7 to at home. Well, how are you coping? What do you do?
Denial first, right? I was saying to you, I felt like I was on vacation and I was looking forward to reading, like I'm reading Rebecca Solnit's Recollections of My Non-Existence. Nothing to do with sports. I thought it'd be great to read that way. But I'm back to reading Connor McDavid's book for Friday's show. So you know how that goes. Oh, Jim, like you, I think both of us saw an opportunity. I think we're each writers. So, I'll never forget, Adam, I was coming home from PEI and Jim was in the backyard here in Oakville. I said, I was loving Poncho and Lefty by Merle Haggard and Willie Nelson. And he says, Townes Van Zandt. I said, no, it's Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard. He says, you don't know it's written by Townes Van Zandt. He says, you don't know Townes Van Zandt. It was like a kid who didn't know how to spell Mississippi, right? So you love those. I remember when Bruce Springsteen wrote The Rising. And the first time I told him I didn't know the words to a Bob Dylan song. Yeah, that's right. Same thing. It's so writing. Well, the two things we'll close on are, Jim, you on writers, John Prine, I'm sure you would chime in on that. And then Adam, you think about your expression, maple moments, or as maple as. But first, Jim, writers. What takes to be the writer that you've become, and who are some of your idols?
Well, certainly having lost John Prine today, and especially because he seemed to be getting better, and then he succumbed, and he was one of those writers. You know, I've always fancied myself a bit of a boor because I don't really get classical music. I listen to it all the time now, and I just doesn't stick in my head. And then I think of somebody like John Prine, who uses incredibly simple language and conversational language, and I stop listening to it. I could listen to the records over and over again. It's so meaningful to me. So I guess it's just the way I'm wired. The way I'm wired is to listen to those singer-songwriters and how their amazing ability to crystallize life in a little tale. And John Prine was truly one of the best. And I'm so glad I went to see him at George Stroumboulopoulos' home, and he did a little gig with 25 of us around, and he did about 10 songs, and it was truly magical. And I feel so fortunate that I got a chance to see him.
Todd Perrin, a great chef down in Mallard Cottage down at Kitty Vitty, Newfoundland. He always sings John Prine songs. Love it on all those gold medal trips. Last word. So when we did Rio Olympics, I was inspired to call a podcast As Maple As, and it was your idea of maple. Adam, just a thought on being a Canadian. I don't know if it's Algonquin or if it's 16 Mile Creek. Where did that expression, maple moments, come from for you?
I was making some phone calls this morning to different national sport organizations just to ask how they're enduring this. I chatted with Nicola Gill, who's, of course, the judoka from Quebec. He's now the CEO and also the high performance director of Judo Canada. And we reminisced a little bit about the Athens Olympics. And he carried the flag into the Athens Olympics, and I carried the flag out of the Athens Olympics. And he, was joking around about, some people don't know what they're going to do after they're going to be after their Olympic career is over. I'm an MP, and now he's a CEO and an HPD. And I guess there's a lot of acronyms there, but we've definitely found something else. Everybody's path is different. We've got a big, beautiful, diverse country with so many different experiences and backgrounds, perspectives, and insights. And that's what makes Canada a great country.
Jim, you get the last word. You got one?
Very nice to talk to you guys, and very nice to see some faces. I don't see a lot of people up here, so this is a godsend. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, I agree.
Another gift coming up this Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 Pacific, when our special guests are Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers and Oilers superfan country star Brett Kissel. Brett will appreciate we always close with a song lyric. Today's comes from the great Jim Cuddy, and it's "Time Won't Let Me Go. Every night I know that you could pull me through. You could always pull me through." That's the song we used to close the Beijing Olympics in 2008, and it's how we close today's episode of In Conversation. So long for now.